Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fascinating puzzles in all of philosophy. Seriously, it's a story that brings together God, some seriously solid logic, and a simple triangle, all in an attempt to prove what sounds totally impossible.
So let me just start with a question for you. Do you think it's possible to prove something is real without ever seeing it, or touching it, or hearing it? I mean, using only the power of your own mind. It sounds a little crazy, right? But one philosopher was absolutely convinced he'd cracked the code.
And that philosopher was René Descartes. See, Descartes had this big idea that if you just think hard enough, with enough clarity about your own concepts, you can actually discover fundamental truths about how the universe works. Take a triangle, for example. Just think about it. Once you have a crystal clear idea of what a triangle is, you realize its angles have to add up to 180 degrees. That's not just an opinion, right? It's a necessary truth that's literally locked inside the concept itself.
So, what does a brilliant philosopher do next? He decides to take this incredibly powerful method and apply it to the biggest, most profound idea of all, the idea of God. Now, he wasn't looking at holy books or searching for signs in nature. Nope. He was looking inward, just exploring the contents of his own mind to see what necessary truths might be hiding in there.
He starts with a really simple foundation that he says he finds right there in his own head. The idea of God, he says, is the idea of a supremely perfect being. And for Descartes, perfect just means complete, lacking nothing at all. He's not even talking about belief yet, just about what the idea itself has to contain.
So how in the world does he get from just an idea in his head to something actually existing in reality? Well, let's walk through his logic, step by step. 1. I have this idea of God. Simple enough. 2. This idea is of a supremely perfect being. 3. A perfect being can't lack any perfection. That's just what perfect means. And 4, and this is the kicker, existence is a perfection. If you accept all that, the conclusion seems unavoidable. Therefore, God must exist.
Okay, hold on a second. I know what you're thinking. Why on earth should we just accept that fourth step? That existence is a perfection, like being all-powerful or all-knowing. It kind of feels like a philosophical cheat code, doesn't it? Well, this is the most controversial part of the whole argument, and yeah, Descartes had an answer for it.
So here's how Descartes justifies it. He links perfection to power. He argues that a perfect being has to be all-powerful, right? And an all-powerful being can't depend on anything else to exist. That would be a weakness, a limitation. So instead, it must have the power of its own existence. It basically holds itself in being, which makes it eternal and necessary. For Descartes, existence isn't just some random add-on. It's a direct result of being supremely powerful. Now, if that still feels like a bit of a mental leap, don't worry. You're not alone. Descartes knew this was tricky, so he used a really brilliant analogy to make it all feel a bit more intuitive. And he does it by bringing back our old friend, the triangle. He says the logic is exactly the same for both. Just like the property of having angles that add up to 180 degrees is totally inseparable from the very idea of a triangle, he claims the perfection of existence is inseparable from the idea of a perfect being. He argued that trying to imagine a perfect being that doesn't exist is just as illogical and contradictory as trying to imagine a mountain that doesn't have a valley. The two ideas are tied together. I mean, that seems like a pretty airtight piece of logic, doesn't it? From one simple idea, he seemingly deduced reality. So, case closed, right? We're done here? Well, not so fast. Because in philosophy, every great argument invites an equally great counter-argument.
And now let's bring in our challenger, the Scottish philosopher David Hume. Now, Hume was what's known as an empiricist, and that's a fancy way of saying he believed that all our real knowledge about the world, about what actually exists, has to come from our senses, from experience and observation, not from sitting in an armchair and just thinking. And he had a major problem with Descartes' neat and tidy little proof.
To take apart Descartes' argument, Hume uses this incredibly powerful tool that philosophers now call Hume's fork. He basically says all human knowledge gets split into two categories. On one side of the fork, you've got relations of ideas. These are truths of pure logic and definition, stuff like all bachelors are unmarried men. You know it's true just by thinking about it. On the other side, you have matters of fact. These are claims about the world, like it's sunny outside. You can't prove that with logic, you have to, well, go outside and look. And this right here is Hume's kill shot. He argues that any question about whether something exists, and he means anything at all, including God, is always, without any exception, a matter of fact. It can never be a relation of ideas. You just can't define something into existence. You need evidence from the world.
Hume puts it so perfectly in this quote. He's saying that there is absolutely no idea you can form in your mind, no matter how perfect or powerful, that you can't also imagine not existing. There's never a logical contradiction in denying that something exists.
So here's Hume's logic, laid out just like we did for Descartes. First, if you can clearly imagine something in your mind, it can't be a logical contradiction. Second, you can clearly imagine anything that exists as not existing. So his conclusion? There is no being out there, none at all, whose non-existence would be a logical impossibility. So to boil it all down, here's the crucial point for Hume. The statement, God does not exist, might be totally false. He's not saying it's true, but he's saying it's not a logical contradiction like a bachelor is a married man or a triangle has four sides. It's a claim about reality that could be true or it could be false, and pure logic alone just can't tell us which it is.
So, who's right here? Is it Descartes, with his elegant, pure reason? Or is it Hume, with his common-sense insistence on experience? This isn't just some minor disagreement. This is a head-on collision between two of the greatest traditions in the history of Western philosophy.
See, this whole debate really just boils down to a fundamental conflict over how we know anything at all. On one side, you've got rationalism, championed by Descartes, which says reason is our ultimate key to unlocking reality. And on the other, you've got empiricism, championed by Hume, which says, no way, experience is our only guide. The whole battle comes down to this. Is the statement, God exists, a truth of logic, kind of like a math equation, or is it a factual claim about the world, like a scientific hypothesis that needs evidence?
And that leaves us with this final, truly mind-bending question to chew on. Is Descartes right? Can existence actually be a property, a feature that's baked into an idea, just like three-sided is for a triangle? Or is Hume right? And existence isn't a property of an idea at all, but more like the stage on which all ideas and things either appear or don't. Your answer to that question really defines your entire worldview, whether you believe the ultimate truths are found inside the mind or out there in the world.